probably the most commonly studied number in any business is that of revenue. I think most business owners know what revenue is. It's the first number that appears on the profit and loss statement, on the income statement, and a lot of time, energy, and focus is given to that number. It's not the most important number in your business, but obviously it's important because without revenue, you really can't operate a business. So there are 7 factors which determine how much revenue, how much income from sales any organisation brings in, including yours. There are 7 factors, and it's common to all organisations. And the way to grow your revenue is to focus on these 7 factors, and I'll go through them, and each one is equally as important as the previous one. So starting at the very top, the first factor that determines revenue is your ability to generate a lead, and that comes from marketing, right? So your marketing has to bring a potential customer or client to the door of your business. Now, whether it physically comes to your door or online, we need to get someone to show interest in utilising your products or services. Makes sense. So this is the job of marketing, right? It's a very important role, and that's why marketing and sales are so intimately tied together. The second step, the second factor to generating revenue is that of building rapport or building trust. In actual fact, this is the most important factor when it comes to revenue. There are 7 factors, but a lot of time, energy, and effort by the best companies is given to building trust with their potential customers or clients, because trust is basically what holds everything in this world together between people. Trust is the glue that holds everything together. So the second step is building rapport, building trust between you and your customer. The third factor to revenue, and obviously growing your revenue, is doing a gap analysis. So what I mean by gap analysis is taking the time to do a thorough analysis of the deep requirements of your potential customer. What do they want? What do they really need? What's happened? What's their previous experience been like in utilising products or services like yours? And trying to pinpoint exactly what it is that they need. Sometimes you'll find in sales, when you do a gap analysis, that the person that you're speaking to, really what you're offering is not a good fit to what they want. So you just smile and say, look, really, I can't help you, right? But the third step, the third factor, is to do a thorough gap analysis to make sure that the suit fits, what you're offering fits the customer. The fourth factor to optimizing your revenue is, once you find out what they need, is to put together a professional presentation. So a presentation that's professional usually has to be visual in nature. In other words, you've got to show them something. It's got to be acoustic. You've got to tell them something. And if you can, let them feel the product or service. This is why when you want to buy a car, they let you drive it, right? And you get the paperwork and you sit opposite the salesperson. And so they give you the full experience. So the fourth factor is a professional presentation. It's got to be professional. It's got to be a lot of thought that goes into it as to the steps involved when it comes to putting forward your proposition to your potential customer. Once you get to the fourth step, the fifth factor is overcoming objections. So getting an objection during a sales process, during a revenue generating process, is a good thing, because people who come up with objections after your presentation or during your presentation are usually interested in buying your product or service. So professional salespeople understand what the possible objections that could come up. They know what they are in advance, and they know how to answer them, ideally before the presentation, during it, so that they can go to the 6 steps. So when it comes to objections, there's no more than 6 objections for any product or service on the face of the planet. So you should take the time to analyze and work out what the possible common objections are to your product or service, and to counteract those, to put the customer at ease during the presentation. There's no more than 6. The 6th factor is obviously closing the sale, and closing the sale is just a gentle nudge whereby you get the client to sign on an agreement or a contract, if you want to call it a contract. Most people, it's the final point of resistance, and professional salespeople have 4 to 5 closes that gently nudge the customer to signing on the agreement, and therefore moving on to utilising their products or services. So professional salespeople, you need 5, no less than 5. And the 7th step, and I've spoken about it before, the purpose of business is to generate referrals. So the 7th step, once they become a customer or a client, is to put in place a process or a system where you are garnishing referrals from your client and customer. So these are the 7 steps. Getting a lead, building rapport and trust, gap analysis, presentation, overcoming objections, closing the sale, and then getting referrals and resales. Now, your revenue is determined by all those steps. So the better you become at those 7 steps, the more revenue that your business, your company will generate. And there's a lot of moving parts within those 7 steps, but here's the important note about that. Your revenue will be determined by the weakest one of those 7 steps. So whatever one of those 7 your company is weakest at, that will be the determining factor as to how much revenue you generate. So let's say, for example, you're great at closing, you're great at putting together a presentation, right? But you're weak at getting leads. Your marketing's not that strong. It's that step which is going to determine how much revenue you generate. If you're great at getting leads, but you're very poor at closing, or you're not good at getting referrals, steps 6 and 7 will determine how much revenue your organisation will make. So, smart organisations do a couple of things. Number one, they train their salespeople. They hire the best salespeople their money can buy. Why? Because salespeople are an asset. Finding good salespeople that can close the sale, that are fully organised and understand those 7 steps, they are an asset. They're not easy to find. They're like eagles, right? The best salespeople on the planet are some of the best paid professional workers in the world, right? There are people who earn millions and millions of dollars because they're outstanding at selling. It's a profession. So companies understand this, the good companies understand this, and they hire outstanding salespeople, number one. And number 2, they take the time to consistently work on these 7 factors and consistently strengthen them. So whatever your weakest factor is, it must be strengthened. And then another one of those 7 factors then will become your weaker factor. So it's consistently strengthening, taking the time with your sales team to consider where the weaknesses are, where the strengths are. And if you continuously do this, hire good people and work on your sales processes, then revenue inevitably rises. So they're the 7 factors, and they are practiced by the best companies on the face of the planet. And I'm pretty sure they'll be practiced by yours. Cheers for now.